Caput.
All views expressed in this podcast are the opinion of the host and in no way medical advice. Good afternoon, Lee.
Good afternoon, Tim.
How are you?
Not too bad. How yourself? All good?
Yeah, good. Thank you for being with me once more.
Well, welcome anytime, Tim.
And welcome everybody to Caput. So today I had planned to talk about, do you remember I mentioned a while ago, I love the concept of time and the way time passes and the idea that you're different, across time. You're a different person across time, all this kind of stuff. And we definitely will do that episode, but I've decided to change it up at the last moment and talk about depression.
Okay.
So I'm going to start with some stats.
Wouldn't be like you, Tim.
It wouldn't be like me at all, would it? So here we go. I think it's a weird one. I don't believe the stats are close to accurate, if I'm really honest, because I think it's even something you mentioned before. It's probably very underreported. Because a lot of people don't know what it is, frankly. They may have it and not even realize, and
Or people maybe do have it and don't want to address it because of the stigma.
Yep, exactly. Nonetheless, let's have some stats. So the World Health Organization, who we all completely love and trust in every way, says that 5% of adults have depression. That's the first stat that I thought sounded very low.
Yeah.
What do you think?
No, I think it's miles away.
Like 1 in 20?
Yeah, it's miles away.
Yeah. And apparently that goes up to 5.7% in over 60s.
Okay.
But I thought that stat, regardless of how accurate that is, it's interesting to note that they're saying as you get older, it's more prevalent. So I guess it makes sense if maybe that's sort of retirement age and you're not then engaged in a workplace and maybe you lose connection with a few people.
Loss of path, yeah.
Yeah. So again, another reason to have a bit more extra empathy for the older folks in the world. So WHO also says, World Health Organization, approximately 280 million people globally suffer from depression.
Okay.
Women suffer more than men. And then this stat reminded me.
That's an interesting stat.
Go on.
I just find it interesting because it maybe is very true, but I would automatically, when I hear that stat, think that men won't admit depression as quick as women will, just because of the whole male pride thing and the whole masculinity that we're meant to have. I think that makes it a lot harder for people to admit depression male-wise. So I don't know if I would believe that stat is as genuine as it sounds.
Well, this next one makes it... Well, would you hear this? Because this reminds me of George Carlin, legendary comedian. He had a really good joke about this. I'll not butcher it. So women attempt suicide more than twice as often as men, but men are 4 times more likely to die by suicide. And if you think of suicide, obviously, as the kind of ultimate symptom of depression.
Yeah, the extremity of it.
Yeah, so that's why that's relevant. But his joke was something along the lines of, basically the punchline is, so men are better at it. So yeah, women try suicide more, which obviously is then, like I say, that's the ultimate sort of how far you can go with depression. That's the ultimate, obviously. The other stats that might be interesting, almost 60% of people with depression don't seek professional support, in part due to the stigma involved. I had to then find out what the hell the word stigma actually means. What's the etymology? I'm just wild for that. So if anyone's interested, it's from the Greek, meaning mark made by a pointed instrument.
Okay.
Bit like, what was it? When Jesus was crucified, didn't he have
nails?
Whatever. Yeah. I think it's linked to that. And just to, again, we're going dark today, but that's what you got to do sometimes.
Yep.
The most recent stats for NI are from 2019. I guess COVID screwed up the ability to get stats, but suicide deaths in NI, there was 209 in Northern Ireland in 2019. 157 of those were men and 52 female.
Yeah, it's a high percentage of males.
So what's that? Yeah, 3/4.
Yeah.
Basically. So that puts it quite clearly back to Carlin's joke, you know. It's like women maybe get it more. Even as you say, I'm not sure how true that is either. But I wouldn't necessarily say it isn't true.
Yeah.
But I think it's like men are more capable of damage, I suppose. More capable of aggression. And if that aggression happens to be turned at themselves, maybe they're just better at carrying that out.
Maybe so.
As crazy as that sounds. So one of the reasons I wanted to talk about depression today is because it's something that's bothered me. It's been a bit of a burden of mine for a very long time. I think it probably first started when I was about 18.
Okay.
And I'm 32 now. So what's that? 14 years?
14 years, yeah. It's a long enough time.
I mean, it's nearly half my life, almost. Getting there, like. And as usual with this podcast, the main reason that I want to address it is because I just don't really hear people
talking about it.
Yeah.
It's so taboo still.
Yeah, especially when they're in it, because I would say this past week, for whatever reason, classic thing, you know, trying to work out why and what happened, and is it food and is it exercise and what is it, what's caused it.
Yep.
But I've had it this week, just sort of somewhere between mild and moderate. And I don't know, I'm sure anyone out there listening who's suffered depression will relate to this, but I always feel like you can tell. You right now, Lee, can tell. These people watching can tell. It's like there's a certain connection, a certain spark.
Anyone who gets it or who has ever had depression or been through depression will pick that up a lot quicker. There's no doubt. Where a lot of time we don't want to admit it. So the person with depression will often hold it in, but I think if someone's been through that, they generally can't sense that from you anyway. So you're better addressing it. I think we just find ourselves out of balance sometimes, and we need to watch ourselves more. It's like you say, you noticed you're feeling out of balance. That's fantastic. That's what people need to do. Keep an eye on ourselves, keep ourselves in check, and see if we're feeling out of balance. If we're feeling out of balance with a bit of depression, we need to figure out why. What's out of sync? What's causing us trouble in their mind? Because there has to be something causing us trouble to bring that depression on in the first place. Yeah.
I think the thing I find really useful and would recommend to other people is just keep educating yourself. To your point, Lee, you know, keep trying to find out your balance, what's tipping you one way or the other way. Keep looking at coping mechanisms and things that, you know, mitigate it a little bit.
Yeah.
Keep reading, keep researching.
It's understanding anything is a key to dealing with it. Yeah. Totally right. What you're saying is reading and understanding it. That's definitely one of the main keys. And then coping mechanisms, as I say, is another big thing. I mean, when you see it coming along, if you do feel it coming along, find your coping mechanisms that work for you, that relieve you, give you a wee bit of relief, give you a bit of enjoyment. Go do something that you enjoy, eat something you enjoy. Although if you're depressed, you might not want to eat anyway, but find something you want to do that you'll enjoy. It's like you say, coping mechanisms are a big thing with anxiety and depression.
I mean, I guess one of the biggest questions that people always have is like, what is it? You know, if you haven't had it, obviously. And even the more interesting angle that I've always thought is like, I saw this video and I'll link it in the description so people can watch it, because of course I can't remember the name of the channel right now, but the video was called "What is the Point of Depression?" And it meant, you know, why did this evolve into us as human beings? Like, what possible reason could this? It must serve a function. And this is obviously just a theory. It's been caused by inflammation. This is obviously one of many potential theories. Thank you. But the logic was quite interesting. It was that so depression is caused by the inflammation, and going back in time, the reason that you feel the sort of symptoms you do, like wanting to isolate and stay away from other people, is because your brain was confused and thought maybe you were ill and you didn't want to spread it to the rest of your tribe.
Okay.
So for that reason, it kind of told you, get sleepy, get tired, go hide away in a dark room. So I just thought was a really interesting idea. Like I say, butchering that, of course, please watch the video instead. Like I say, it's called "What is the Point of Depression?" But I think as well, like trying to describe it to people, I've heard this so many times, people saying, you know, oh, it's like swimming through treacle, or it's like this, or it's like that. And I think, as we talked about earlier, like people are so different, it's almost redundant to try and describe your own version.
Everybody's makeup and sides are different. I mean, the world is a boring place where we're all the same.
Yeah.
But genetically made up, we're all different too. You know what I mean? So everybody is different balances, and everybody has different coping mechanisms too. Do you know what I mean? Because we are so different. So you can't say, listen, a walk in nature will ground you, because it won't ground everybody. It will ground a big percentage of us, but not everyone has the same coping mechanisms. Someone might like to take off for a drive in their car for half an hour because it takes their mind off everything, helps them relax. Someone else might not enjoy driving the car because it make them anxious. So again, it's just find what works for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things I found most useful is just being busy.
Yeah.
Which might sound...
distraction.
Yeah, it might sound counterintuitive though to someone who's really depressed. Because of course when you're really depressed, you feel like the idea of getting anything done is like, well, I can't even get out of bed maybe sometimes. So like, how on earth am I going to...
It's a big task.
Yeah, but I feel like it's like prevention is better than cure kind of thing.
Yeah, always.
If you get ahead of it ever, you know, start... like sign up for stuff, you know what I mean?
Stay ahead of it.
Sign yourself up for, yes, I will go out to that gig with you. Yes, I will schedule a podcast. Yes, I will, you know, agree to meet someone.
Totally agree, and I get that because I say I've had depression years ago myself, so I totally understand that. Once I found a way out of it and found coping mechanisms, I always subconsciously now watch for it coming back. Always subconsciously watch for it coming back because it can come back so quick. And when I do, I use those coping mechanisms, and it's the same for everyone. You just need to learn to watch and feel for it coming, and sense those triggers, and know you're going further down into that depressive state, because that's what happens if you don't address it. Then you will go further and further in that depressive state, which you'll start to become more solitary as that gets deeper, and you'll push everyone away further and further. The more down that depressive state you go. So the sooner you pull yourself out of that and find a coping mechanism, get yourself back on track, the better it is for yourself. And it's just analysing yourself and keeping an eye on that, I think, 24/7.
Yeah, I totally agree. The other thing that I find really useful is realizing that I think I spent quite a lot of time wallowing in depression.
Self-pity. Self-pity is a big thing of depression and anxiety. That's one thing. That's probably one of the biggest keys that helped me really turn my life around from anxiety and depression, realizing how much self-pity I wallowed in.
Yes.
I had issues from younger age, and I wallowed in those issues and blamed other people for my anxiety and my depression. Once I stopped that and caught myself on, stopped the self-pity, then I could start rebuilding my life. Till I addressed that self-pity, I would never have progressed, never got out of that state of depression and anxiety. I would have just carried on for the rest of my days. So self-pity is a big thing in my eyes with depression. As much as people in depression don't want to hear it, I didn't want to hear it at the time either. But anxiety and depression, I found self-pity was one of the main drivers. There's no doubt in my mind. Yes, there's something that causes that self-pity. Something has happened to you in your past, in your childhood, whatever the case may be, to cause that self-pity to come along. So yes, maybe someone has instilled that. But you need to progressively move forward in life. You just let go of the past and focus on the present and move forward. If you live in the past, you're going to be anxious. You live in the future, you're going to be anxious. You need to live in the present. That's the key to try to keep depression and anxiety at bay, I think.
Yeah. Live in the present. Great advice. Again, it's so much, it's easier said than done when you do feel
no doubt
bad,
it's so hard to pull yourself out of that.
I think I'm totally my story is very, very similar actually. Just things that happen when you're younger, and you just that probably have affected me and gave me depression in the first place. But again, no one can tell.
It always has a trigger somewhere.
Yep. Plus there's all other things, hereditary things, environmental things, biological things,
diet, everything else. So many things can play up to it as well.
Yeah, but I think like you, I realized I was just sort of
creating your own happiness.
Why me? Why? But I think I eventually found, even like right now, like we're sitting doing this, I bet you any money if this was maybe 5-6 years ago, I would have just called it off, because but what good is that? I'm not moving forward. Yeah. I'm not getting out this message to anybody. And even, back to balance. People who, I mean, there's lots of people that I'm sure have like all the energy in the world. Maybe they've never experienced any mental illness, and they get nothing done of any use to anybody. So just because you're depressed or anxious or any of those things, it doesn't mean you can't be a functioning, useful member of society.
Well, there you've just said that you're the proof of that, because 6 years ago you wouldn't have done this. You'd have pushed it off.
Yeah.
Again, a lot of years ago I would have done the same. I would have went, no, not happening. I would just shut down, and something else has popped up. I can't make it, Tim. But that's just, I've learned that, and I've progressed from that, and I've shook it off, and I've made myself stronger. You've clearly done the same over the last 6 years. As you say, you wouldn't have done this 6 years ago. So you've clearly something to be proud of by working on yourself, and you're putting coping mechanisms in place. You're learning about depression, what's causing it, why you're feeling like this. You've learned about the self-pity. So again, you've just reiterated what you were saying. It's down to education. Educate yourself on depression and how and why it's there. Figure out your triggers, why you've got depression in the first place, and then address that. You need to address that. If you've demons, you need to address them to move forward.
Yeah.
Then focus on yourself every single day. Find your coping mechanisms. If you find yourself slipping again, then reinstate those coping mechanisms. You just let slip away. You'll not need the same coping mechanisms every day, because you'll be stronger some days than others. But see the days that you're not as strong as you were the day before, and then reinstate those coping mechanisms to bring yourself back up.
Yeah. I think everything's a cycle, mentally, I think. So if you're in a bad way, the cycle will go more and more and more towards the bad. And if you do what you just described, get the coping mechanisms, work on yourself every day, it will go more and more and more towards the good.
It's like a law of attraction. What you focus on will escalate pretty much. If you focus on the good, you'll get more of it. If you focus on the bad, you're going to create more of it. You'll find bad if you look for it all over the place. You can find good if you look for it too.
Very true. Yeah. But I think for me, because obviously, yes, like at this point in my life, my depression is so much better controlled and what's the word?
Managed.
Yeah, better, so much better managed. Like trying to compare it to maybe 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years ago,
you probably wouldn't recognize yourself.
Yeah, I really wouldn't.
Yeah, I know that.
But the biggest thing I've learned is like this week, like I just said, I've been depressed this week. So it'll still happen.
It never goes away. Yeah.
But I think the thing maybe that I try to keep in my mind is like try and stay ahead of it. Again, back to your point, when you feel those things coming on, you feel the familiar signs of I'm a bit more tired than usual. I keep forgetting what I'm saying. I can't concentrate. What am I doing? Then the second you'll get better at picking up on them every time, and get ahead of it by straight away implementing those things as soon as you possibly can.
I think that's key. Key is just keeping an eye on yourself. The thing with depression is other people end up keeping an eye on you over time when you get so bad, but the problem is we need to keep an eye on ourselves more before we get to that point. The world or people have to then sort of keep an eye on us. If we keep an eye on ourselves, we'll not get to that point. We'll keep ourselves well balanced, as you say. If you find yourself out of sync, put more coping mechanisms in place. It's just keeping an eye on yourself every single day. And it never disappears. The work never stops. I mean, putting the work into yourself every day doesn't stop. That's when the depression comes back. That's when the anxiety comes back. You stop putting the work into yourself, it comes back so quick. You have to analyse yourself every single day. That's just part and parcel of what comes with anxiety and depression. If you don't, then you can't put the coping mechanisms in place and have everything in balance. And it comes back slowly but surely.
Yep. And that might sound like a lot of work to people, but I would pose the question, well, what's better or what's worse? Do you want to be a useless mess of a person who can't progress, can't make any positive change to anyone else? Or do you want to just accept your particular burden and just try and deal with it the best you can?
Yeah, I mean, life's short. We only get this one shot at this. Do you know what I mean? You don't want to be lying on your deathbed going, I could have changed this and I could have made more of an effort to try and address this, but I didn't because I felt sorry for myself. And sometimes that is just what it comes down to. Sadly, as much as it's hard to hear, it was hard for me to hear too at the time. Do you know what I mean? But I realised it was myself causing a lot of my own unhappiness through dwelling on shit that happened years ago that shouldn't be dwelled on. I mean, it's not, no matter how much you dwell on, it's not going to change it. So address it and move forward. Focus on the future, not the past. The past is no use.
Yeah. And I think address it, as you say. I would just say this: please speak to someone.
Yeah.
You
if you
know,
have issues, address
anyone.
them. That won't go away. Yeah.
Yeah. Because of course, like there's levels to depression, as with everything. And again, just the sooner you start on that journey of trying to work out what level you're at and what might help you, the better. But that stigma of, especially for guys, you know,
it's so hard for guys.
So hard. I've been there. Absolutely guilty as charged. You know,
it was the same for many years. But we have to put on that front that we're the men, we're the masculine. It's not that. I've seen women as strong as men. There's no, that shouldn't be compared like that. I've seen women that are so mentally strong, it's unbelievable. Do you know what I mean? So we shouldn't have to feel like we're meant to be the alpha of the sexes, because it shouldn't be like that. I mean, like I say, women can be as mentally strong as males and vice versa. Do you mean? And we can all feel low. Every single one of us, male, female, doesn't matter. So everybody goes through the same things, and that's the problem. I think it's categorizing again with the sexes, male and female. It just needs to be mental health talked about openly among everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, even I'm sure most people can relate. You know, when you've, especially like in a relationship, for example, if there's something that's been bugging you for a minute, and for whatever reason you don't get a chance, or you just don't get around to telling the person. And I mean, a minute after you finally get the chance to address it, you just feel like
relief.
Yeah, right.
What took so long?
Yeah, it's so simple. It's so simple, but it's something, unfortunately, that we're really losing the ability to do and skills in, which is just basic human-to-human communication.
Face-to-face communication is just drifting day by day due to technology.
Yeah.
That's certainly one of the negative side effects of technology. But I think it's something that's definitely not needed at the minute. When we need more connection with people need to learn to have more connection. People need to learn to talk amongst each other. I mean, if you're feeling low, you should be able to come to me and say, I'm feeling a bit low this week. It shouldn't be something you should have to think about. You should just say, I'm feeling a bit low this week. If you're thinking that, do you know what I mean? Just keep a wee eye on me, or whatever the case may be. It shouldn't be a second thought. You shouldn't have to think, what will he think if I say this? It shouldn't come into your head. It should just be done. We were all humans. We're on the same level. It's judgment shouldn't. That's what stops it all, is judgment. Judgment is what it's all about. That's why people won't talk about it. It's down to judgment.
Yeah.
Again, we're saying stigma a lot of time, but a lot of time it's just judgment. People don't want to be judged for feeling weak.
Yeah.
A lot of people relate depression, anxiety with weakness, and it shouldn't be, because to live with anxiety and depression, you're anything but weak. To live with that every single day. I know, I've been through it. So to live out every single day is it makes you hellly strong. So anybody it's labeling themselves weak is totally wrong there. I mean, you need to be strong to live out every day. You need to be even stronger to manage it and cope with it. And that's what people need to learn to instill, because that's just the next step.
That was very nice what you just said there.
Thanks.
Yeah. I think that ultimately, when you boil it all down, for me, this whole, men don't cry, blah, 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 is like, well, the statistics say something very different. Instead of being judged or whatever, as you said, men are killing themselves.
Yeah.
So,
that's how strong judgment is now in the society we live in.
So that's your choice. Talk to someone. Stop being, I need to be this manly, masculine thing. Because your choices is you either get over yourself, or you might end up dead. Yeah. How's that even a choice?
It shouldn't be a choice. It shouldn't be. I mean, you've got those two choices, and that's what it boils down. And as hard as people in that state will find that to hear, that pick yourself up and get on with it, is what it sounds like.
Yeah.
I know that's what it sounds like when you're in that state, and they're sitting in that state going, you don't know how I feel so low, this is so hard. We do know how you feel, but that is the reality of it. You just need to get through it, find a couple of mechanisms and get through it, and fight for yourself. If you don't fight to get yourself better, you're not going to get better. That's the long and short of it. But like you say, the first port of call is talking. If you have depression and issues, you need to talk to somebody about it. That's the first port of call.
Yeah.
You need to share that load with someone else. See logic in it, because when you're sharing that load in your own head and with nobody else, you can't see the logic. You're just going over the troubles and the problems in your head. There's no logic there. Someone can look at it from an outside perspective and see clear logic in seconds, and that can just neutralize the whole situation for you.
Yeah.
I think so. Talking's always going to be the first port of call, and with depression in my eyes.
Definitely. It's like a smart person said, like, talking is thinking.
Yeah.
You know, when you're sitting on your own,
loud,
letting it all swirl around, that's not really thinking. It's saying, I say it out to you, Lee, I feel this way, that way.
Yeah.
Hang on, do I really? Or what am I talking about? That's
you're
nonsense.
actually realising what you're thinking.
Yeah. Either way, maybe you're more severe or less severe than you say, but when you say it, you have to think, you have to formulate those words and formulate those thoughts, and yeah, it's very, very vital.
Yeah, it makes it more real.
Yeah. How on earth does one end such a discussion?
It's a low subject.
Yeah. I would just want to reiterate. I almost feel like this could be a motto, because I really, really believe this in my heart, is like, don't be a stat.
Yeah.
Please don't be a stat.
No, don't.
Because again, you're
so
you across time. You're not you now. You're you. You've been you in the past. You're you right now. But think of the potential you in the future.
Yeah.
Everyone at every age too. Whether you're 60, you know, there's lots of stories of amazing businesses people have started in their 50s and 60s, and you know, you are you now, but you're a different you in a year, in 2 years, and 5 years. So just try and remember that, I guess, is what I would leave people with, Lee.
Yeah, see your value.
Yeah. Don't be a stat. Please don't be a stat. Please don't be a hard man. Please just speak to someone.
Yeah, just be real. That's all anybody should do. Just be real. Be honest. Just be genuine. If we're all real, honest and genuine, the world would be a great place.
Wouldn't it just? What's the word when you just freestyle?
Off on a tangent.
Let's say freestyle. That sounds better.
That's
tangent is probably more accurate though. Bit of a freestyle tangent today on that, but I just thought it was a good opportunity to address it.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll be talking about it again in the future.
It's certainly a subject that needs addressed, so
no
harm in addressing it, Tim.
Yeah. So thank you very much for being here and listening to my tangents.
No problem, Tim, anytime.
And as always, I've learned a lot from you, Lee, and I really appreciate your attitude, really, to everything.
Likewise, Tim. Thanks very much.
So cheers, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks
Take
very
care,
much,
have
mate.
a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Caput.
Watch the full video podcast on YouTube at Caput Network.